I've always wanted to see inside my hive when it's cold outside to see what the bees are doing. And look at this. Wow, you can see how the bees are clustered and they're tighter. It got down to 32 degrees Fahrenheit, 0 degrees Celsius last night. So now it's just barely above freezing. And look at this hive, what the bees are doing. So interesting. You might even wonder, like this little hot spot here, what is that? Is that where the queen is? So interesting. I want to show you a bunch more of these hives and what they're doing, even in spring when it gets cold at night. This camera is really helpful, especially in the wintertime. Hey everybody, I'm David Burns, EAS Certified Master Beekeeper. Good to be with you today. Today I'm going to be talking about how to use a camera that is a thermal imaging camera that you can use to see what your bees are doing inside. It's almost like having Superman X-ray vision and seeing through your hive into the hive itself and seeing what the colony is doing. And this is a paid promotion. I'm not getting paid to actually talk about this camera, but I do have to declare it as a paid promotion because the Top Don did give me this camera and asked me to give a review on it. And so because they gave it to me, I didn't pay for it, I still have to declare this as a paid promotion video. But I think you understand. Now, one of the things that I did that I'm really excited about, that I actually collaborated with them and they agreed to give another camera of these away to someone on my live stream. So I was pushing for you guys when I was talking to the company, and they said, sure, we'll give you one to review, and then we'll give one to you to give away on your live stream. So in a future upcoming live stream, probably in the next, could be tonight when I do my live stream, or it may be next week or the week after, whenever I can get things kind of configured that way. But we'll be able to give one of these away to one of you during the live stream. And it's really a nice camera. I'm going to talk about it, how I feel about it. It's not cheap. That's why it's good that I'm giving one away to a winner on my live stream. About 250 bucks is what this is going to cost you. Now, this is a cool camera because what I like about it is that it plugs into your phone. You don't have to have a separate camera. And I'm going to tell you right off the bat, when they first contacted me, I was a little bit leery of doing it. However, I've always wanted one of these cameras. Some of you may know this as a FLIR, F-L-I-R camera. This is, you know, these names are kind of not really interchangeable, but they kind of are. But this is a thermal imaging camera. It does the same thing. It shows you where the heat is when you're looking at one of your beehives. I'm going to show you some examples of how I used it in my house to determine where I had some leaks and if my furnace was actually working correctly. That's interesting. But this is an interesting camera, and I'm going to talk about it more because I've always wanted one and I didn't want to pay the money. So sometimes I've had a lot of people offer products to me to review on my YouTube channel, and some of those aren't really helpful to you guys. And I've been offered a mattress, an electric bike, all kind of things. I'd love to have them, but I'm not going to do it if it's not beneficial to my viewers. But I think this is really going to be beneficial for my viewers, and especially that I get to give one away on my live stream. And look at this, got a package of bees here. I know it's a big weekend for us as our customers are picking up their packages of bees, and that's exciting for a lot of you. This is a typical bee bus package that your bees will come in, so kind of exciting. I put that there thinking that you guys would get pumped up and excited, either for all the new beekeepers getting into beekeeping, or maybe you are getting into beekeeping. So this particular camera, as I said earlier, it mounts onto the bottom of your phone. And I like that because it's a nice feature. I got the iOS version, had them send it to me because this actually will plug in to my iPhone. And so having it plugged into my iPhone, it's a nice plug-in feature. You charge this. And what I really liked about it is that, it comes with a charging cord here. I actually like the instructions. I tell you, I get a lot of things, I buy a lot of things and they come with instructions. But by the time I try to figure the instructions out and read them, sometimes it's not the best of instructions. But I'm kind of a tactile learner, and I like the instructions here because it's got a big number 1 and a picture and not a lot of words. That's perfect for me. Okay, so it says, okay, number 1, and it says a little arrow means to download the app. It says you can get it off the Apple Store or the Android store. And then once you get your app loaded on your phone, number 2, you just kind of plug it in and boom, it's working. And what I was amazed at, there wasn't anything that I had to do extra. Like, I have gotten a lot of cameras that I use around the property and for bees, but a lot of these cameras, once I download the app always makes me sign in with my personal information, my email, my telephone number. I've got to set up an account. I didn't have that with this at all. I simply downloaded the app, and once it was running, I plugged the camera in and everything worked. They didn't want all my personal information. I really like that a lot. And so it was pretty handy just to go ahead and get this started up and take it out in the field and test it. I was a little bit worried when I thought, okay, I got to plug it in, and I have a case, a cover on my iPhone, because I drop my phone a lot. I've broken a lot of phones. And so I thought, oh, maybe it won't plug in good, but it plugs in perfectly, even with my particular case on there. I like that a lot because I don't want to have to take my case off. And that's all it is to it. Once you kind of like plug the phone in, I did it backwards, didn't I? I think it goes the other way like that. Yeah, there we go. Because the camera is wanting to be facing away from me. So once I put the phone on, like camera on the phone like this, I just open up the app and it's ready to go. And as you can see, you can even see my face. You can kind of see around the room here how well it works. And what's cool about it is that you can either take a video or a picture. And so without even recording anything or without even taking a picture, I just started using it visually, just thinking about, okay, what's cold, what's hot. Now, one of the things that I'm kind of used to doing, I'm used to thinking that the camera is at the top. And so for a minute, I thought, what is in front of the camera? And then I realized it was my finger. So you have to remember the camera is at the bottom when you plug it in. So you have to hold the camera up higher like this when you're filming, and just don't get in front of this lens down here. It's not using your camera, it's using the separate lens here. So one of the hives that I looked at first was this one, and as you can see, this is an interesting hive because it's one that we inspected in my last video, I think. And it's not a bad hive. I didn't really feed it anything much. 1 or 2 winter bee kinds. I'm not trying to get a lot of bees out of this one for winter, just wanted it to get through winter. And so they're getting along pretty good, but you can see how they're clustered. Looks like to me toward the bottom, and this backside here is kind of a puzzle to me because I see this real tight center circle of a cluster, and I'm wondering if that's not where the queen is. Could be. But now we've been making videos out of the hive that I have my breeder queen in. Look at this. They're huge. I fed them a lot. And you can see even at just a hair above freezing temperatures, you can see they're not really clustered. They just take up the whole box. Now I put a queen excluder in this between the top super and the bottom 2 deeps. And you can tell that the bulk of the bees, it seems like to me, are down below that queen excluder, although it seems like heat is still rising up into the top there. So most of the bees are down below. Now I know all of you probably wanted to take a look at what's going on in the little round hive that could. So walked out to the bee yard, look at this, interesting. Now the sun is rising, so the warmth of the sun is easily detected by this thermal imaging camera. And you can see that on the side facing the sun, the whole side of it is already showing a heat signature. But I decided I could go around the back of it in the shade next to a tree where the sun is not hitting it, and aha, look at that. Right in the middle of the little round hive that could, we see where the bees are making the heat there. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Now, just to show you a couple more hives and what it looks like, I found it interesting what the bees are doing. And one of the things that I noticed is that there is a lot of heat that can be detected through the handles of the hive. Now, that doesn't really mean there's a huge heat loss there, although it could mean that. It just means that it can detect heat, because if you block the camera with a piece of plastic, or if you were wearing glasses and took a look at your face, your glasses would be real blue because it's blocking the camera's ability to measure or to see the heat of your face through the plastic or the glasses. And so in this case, you can tell there could be heat loss in handles. And I've heard that a lot in beekeeping. People say that. A lot of people don't like handles on their hives. Some hives have really, like this one back here, has a really wide handle on it and pretty deep as well. And so some beekeepers I know that don't like handles. They just put strips of wood on the outside of their hives, and that way they can pick them up using that strip of wood, because they feel like they're losing heat through those handles. I even noticed, we always talk about that it's the most important place to have insulation on a hive is at the top. And one of these tops that I see here, I think it's a plastic top, it actually, you can see there's a heat loss in the center of it. And you can tell that it's very warm. The heat is touching, going through perhaps a little bit. I mean, it's not really going out like a window or a screen window, but it's at least the heat is presenting itself right there at the top of the hive. I thought that was interesting. All my other hives look the same, but I wanted to show you this hive. This hive is an Enel hive. I think it's called Enel, and it's a plastic hive, much like an Apiary hive. And if you look at that heat signature on the walls, this is very interesting. They claim that these plastic hives do have better insulation, and so it is harder to see. This is a really full hive, and it would be, if it was in a wooden box, it'd be showing a bright, bright orange, yellowish heat signature, but it's not as much. I just inspected it a couple of days ago, and it's just jam-packed full of bees. But what's interesting is, look at the side. You can see these little ribs. I don't know what that means, and the manufacturer of this hive probably does, but there's some kind of a rib pattern there that is cooler than the heat around it. I thought that was just interesting to observe. I know every review probably should have some pros and cons, the good and bad, but I would say right now, the one thing that is noticeably sort of a con is that I have to remember that I can't really always hold my camera like I normally do. Now, that's not anything against the camera. There's no other place to put it except down below into the plug-in port. And so that's just on me, but I'm saying that's something that you have to remember. Don't think it's using these cameras here. It's using the one here, so you can block it with your hand. So you have to remember when you hold it to hold it up higher. So I just really haven't found anything yet that I don't like about it. I know that sounds crazy. I have other cameras that I bought with my own money that are just regular cameras that I have so many complaints against. But this one just does what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to show you heat, cold, and it does. It has a lot of other features as well that I haven't showed you, but I'll tell you about them. But I do like that it just simply works. I guess that's the simplest way to say it. And I don't have to do a lot of registration to get it to work. It wasn't hard. This would be very simple for anybody to buy the camera, plug it in, quickly download the app, plug it in, boom. It's just ready to go, work for you. Now, let me talk about some of the other applications in beekeeping. I really like the idea of how important this is in the wintertime. This will help you walk through your apiary and see how your bee's doing. Now, in the wintertime, it's funny, if we're wondering if our hive is still alive, a lot of times we'll knock on the side of it with our ear against the hive and we'll say, bzz, okay, they're still alive. I hear them buzzing, right? Well, with this camera, you can just walk through your apiary and just hold it. You don't have to save, you don't have to videotape it. You can just look and see if it's totally blue, the hive is dead. Well, the sun could hit the box and maybe deceive you. But if you do it before sunrise or after sunset, you can just see, okay, no heat in that hive is dead. Or you look at a hive that you think might have died, and all at once you see this glaringly obvious ball of red. Aha, my bees are fine. You can kind of see how big they are. You can also have so much fun determining how tight your cluster is. Now, your cluster, sometimes we have dual clusters. Now, this is interesting because if your hive has maybe gotten warmer in the daytime in the winter and they've broken in, kind of broken up the cluster, but then it drops really fast and they can sometimes cluster over here in a smaller cluster and cluster over here in a smaller cluster, dual clusters. I've seen as many as 3 clusters because they never got a chance to go all the way back together. Remember, they're walking between all those frames trying to get orientated, and sometimes they fail to do it. With this camera, you could go out there and look, and you can say, oh my gosh, this hive is in 2 different clusters or 3 different clusters. Not sure what you do about it, but maybe you could figure out some way to correct that. But certainly that's something you can observe too as to why your bees may be in trouble. And if you're feeding bees in the wintertime, it's interesting. You can go out there with a camera and you can see where the bees at in relation to your feeding. I mean, most of us feed on the top in the wintertime, either with fondant or my winter bee kind boards, and you can see where are the bees, where are the clusters, are they really close to the top eating that winter bee kind? Are they splitting up a little bit? A lot of interesting things that you can use this camera for. I just think it's a lot of fun. Now, obviously, if you don't want to spend $250 on a thermal imaging camera, you don't have to. I mean, I've been keeping bees. I started beekeeping almost 30 years ago. This is the first time I've ever had one. And obviously, there are times that I've wanted one and I could have used one. I've actually made some videos in, I think, some of my classes, but I had to ask a friend that has one to come over and use it. So, you know, sometimes it's handy to have these, but certainly you don't have to pay the $250 to get this camera. You can just go out there and put your ear against the hive and knock on it, wait till it warms up to 65 Fahrenheit and do an inspection. But if you're kind of a worrywart and you do wonder what your bees are doing in the wintertime, and just kind of like a curiosity person, like maybe you're kind of a geek and you like to do these kind of technology things to help your bees. I know a lot of you use data and different ways to gather data with your bees. Cool way to do it. Oh, and some of the other things I want to let you know about is that it says it is a high resolution IR camera. And it also says real-time temperature waveform, iOS device with lightning port supported. Now this, you can get it Android too, but this is for the iOS, Apple. Temperature abnormality alarm. So I guess if something is, you can set it. So maybe there's an alarm that goes off if something is too high, too cold. Testable temperature range, -0 degrees Celsius to 550 degrees Celsius. Oh, and for those of us in Fahrenheit in the US, -4 Fahrenheit up to 1020 degrees Fahrenheit. Youch, our bees would not be alive at that temperature. So customizable imaging optimization as well. All right, so keep that in mind for my next live stream. I'm going to be giving away one of these thermal imaging cameras as well. But also, I've got a link in the description below through my Amazon affiliate link if you do choose to buy one of these and play with it. It'd be a good asset to your beekeeping hobby that you like to do if you like taking thermal images of your bees in the wintertime especially. Now, as we continue to talk about how to use this camera, I want to encourage you guys to please subscribe to my channel here. I appreciate it so much. Bobblehead David, his job is to stand around in some kind of astronaut suit. Okay, it's a beekeeping suit, and hold up the little sign saying please subscribe. I appreciate you guys subscribing so much, and I try to make valuable content. I try to offer good information for you guys to be better beekeepers. I'm trying to help you make fewer mistakes and keep healthier bees, so please subscribe. Now, let me tell you also about this camera. As you can see here in my house, I actually started looking at items that were of interest to me in my home. And what I noticed was when I took a look at one of our electric panels in the house, I said, why is it so blue pouring out of the bottom of my electrical panel? Now, this is not our main panel, but it's a panel that's got a handful, 10 breakers in it. And so it was not windy at all when I was filming this. But look, this is the cold air that's seeping in right here. Now, if it was windy, this would even be more cold air coming into my house. Well, as soon as I put my finger at the base of the electrical panel, I realized there's a gap there. Now, I'm going to try to tighten it up, see if I can get it closer to the wall. But you know how that goes with a lot of electrical panels. They don't always sit flat and flush against the wall, but I'll get some type of insulation or silicone or something, because where I live in the north, If the wind can find any spot to get into, it will, and it will freeze you to death in the wintertime. So I'm using it to kind of go around the house and looking for leaks like that. I wasn't real impressed with this door. I bought this door, paid a lot of money for it, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, and I see a lot of cold kind of seeping at the bottom of this door. And I siliconed it a few weeks ago because I could feel the air in the wintertime. Finally got warm enough, I went outside and put some silicone around the base out there, but it's still seeping in. I don't know, might have just to buy a new door because you can even see where it's cold around the middle of the door as well. I don't know what that means, but it could be cold air's leaking there. And that, again, it's not even a windy day outside. So I'm helping tonight all of you identify things like American foul brood, what does that look like? European foul brood, what does that look like? Wax moth damage, what does that look like? How do you identify maybe mites in your drones, some worms that you see in your hives, what are those? I'm going to help you identify the obvious things for you brand new beekeepers though, like what's the difference between honey and brood on the comb, and pollen and nectar and all of those things that we just see in the hive, bee bread. So be a good important live stream for you to be a part of tonight if you're wanting to get some really good images memorized in your head on how you can identify things in your hive. So important.